I'm Lee Spencer with the Racing Boys, and I am at the dirt track at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and I'm here with last night's winner, Gio Scelzi. Hell of a run last night. What were you thinking when you finally got by Kyle Larson with 5 to go?
Yeah, we were good. We had a good dash, qualified good, and had a good heat race. So we kind of we put ourselves in position to be up front, and rode the first 10 or so laps and knew I was good, and got up around the fence following Larson. Then the rubber started to come in, and knew I was a little bit better. He was starting to search a bit, and I just got the wing back and got rolling through the rubber. So peeled off down the backstretch and slid him into 3 and never looked back.
I got to ask, you were the youngest driver ever in World of Outlaws competition. I know you grew up watching Straight Line since your father's a 4-time champion in NHRA, but what drew you to sprint cars rather than following in your dad's footsteps?
I think, with sprint car racing, there's midgets and micros and outlaw karts and all kinds of kids' classes to kind of get yourself started. With drag racing, there's really nothing you can do under 16. So there's not a lot of kids' classes in drag racing, like I said, and I just never really had a desire to go 300 mile an hour in a quarter mile. So it was kind of scary in a way almost, and never really had a desire to do it. But sprint car racing really intrigued me and my brother, and it's kind of the path we took.
Isn't it also cool being able to forge your own way? And even though it's motorsports in general, you're out of your dad's shadow over here.
Yeah, for sure. My dad's taught me everything I know with racing and drag racing and sprint car racing. All racing, I feel like, is the same. You got to have a good team and you got to get along. So he's taught me a lot about it, and he's been obviously the biggest stage of drag racing too. So it's good too. I'm fine being Gary Scelzi's son. I really enjoy it, and it's helped me get where I am today.
Not only that, he's really a badass dude on top of that. So, you got one of the cool dads. You're lucky there. I was talking to your dad earlier, and I said, hey, is Gio around? He said, Gio's working on the race car. In an era where a lot of guys just come bringing a check and don't want to get their hands dirty, why are you intent on, actually just getting your hands dirty, working on the car?
Yeah, in a way, I grew up working on my brother's car, kind of when he was a priority, and I was kind of the second guy, in the family racing micros and stuff, and learned to work on sprint cars and just kind of progress through it. And I've been fortunate to race for very good teams in my career with Roth Motorsports. Brian Sunbeam, especially Bernie here. Bernie puts literally every cent he has in to get me to the racetrack, and I try and do my best for him, and we get along really well. So it's a very good team, and it's just me and him at the racetrack, and just me at the shop. So I enjoy it. I love working on race cars, and I think I take a lot of pride in having a nice race car and having my stuff nice. Being prepared too. It's long weeks in the shop, but it pays off.
I've got to say, Larson, he takes pride in not knowing these cars, not working on these cars, not knowing what they do. And I've noticed this year with Kurt Busch coming over, and Kurt's a guy who his dad was a racer. He was, I won't say forced, but he didn't get to watch racing until he worked on his race car. His father wanted him to know the ins and outs of the car, how the mechanics work, because he felt if he was sitting on there, if he knew what his butt was feeling, he'd have a better idea how to control the car on the racetrack. Is that the same impression that you get in the short 17 years that you've been on this earth?
Oh yeah, I agree with that 100%. Like I said, I build these things from the ground up, and I love doing it. So I think when you build them and you know how things work, and then you go translate it on the racetrack, you can come in and I can talk to Bernie and tell him exactly what I'm feeling, and then instead of him having to guess what to do or what he thinks, he can just do it, and it's a very easy process with me and him. We get along very well. So I think it's huge. Knowing the ins and outs and working hard too. I think like you said, some kids in a way they bring a check and just show up and drive, and then when they wad their race car up, they go home and it sucks because I got to fix the thing. So I try to be a smart racer and try to be a clean racer. So I think it's made me grow very fast in the short 17 years.
I'd say God bless the Bernies of this world, because if guys like he weren't around to give kids like you an opportunity, there are kids throughout this country that would not get a shot, particularly at a level as high as World of Outlaws. What can you say about him and how he gives back to the sport?
Oh man, I look up to him in many ways as a person, a businessman, a crew chief, a husband in every way. He's just a great guy all around, and he works harder than anybody I know. He's at Indy Race Parts 24 hours a day, and when he's not there, we're at the racetrack. So, like I said, he puts literally every dollar he has, him and his wife Betsy. And I'm very fortunate to be teamed up with someone like them. And from the first day I met the guy, we meshed really well, and we spent almost every day together. So we haven't had a blow up yet, so hopefully it doesn't happen. So.
What do you think this win means to him? Because you guys you have a decent budget, but may not be on the levels of your neighbors next door or Tony Stewart. I mean, just being able to compete and run up front, a lot of that's the driver. How do you think Bernie felt after that moment?
Oh, I think it's huge, especially last year winning his first Outlaw race with me at Williams Grove, being the youngest winner, first time 14.
And at Williams Grove.
Exactly, yeah, on top of it all. So that was a really special moment, and we had some good runs after that. And to win another Outlaw win, his only 2 wins with me is pretty special, especially being young. And he said, Joey Stellana, Darren Pittman, all these really, really good racers drive his cars and hasn't knocked one down yet. And we win 2 Outlaw races. So it's very special to me. I take a lot of pride in it. And I wouldn't want to do it with anybody else.
But you do know there's going to come a time, and I think if the right opportunity came along, Bernie would be like, Gio, you got to take this. You got to make this move. Is World of Outlaws really where you want to make your long-term home, or we're looking across the street at Charlotte Motor Speedway? I know Jeff Gordon was walking around here, and I know he's sizing up talent. He's not making any bones about being a scout for Hendrick Motorsports. If that day comes and somebody did offer you a ride in some sort of stock car or truck, how would you take that?
Oh, I'd love to do something. I never raced pavement before, but I'd love to kind of get in that aspect of it. Like you said, with the Outlaws, it's a very grueling schedule, racing 100 times a year, and then going to Australia during our winter, which is their summer. So it's a year-round race schedule, and you make good money doing it, but you're never home. So I'd like to do it when I'm younger, maybe. Before I have a family or have any ties to home. So, but I'd love to get in a NASCAR. Obviously, the living is way better. Get paid way better. It seems like a little bit slower lifestyle. You race on the weekends. You're not racing, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. A couple 6, 7, 8 days in a row like you are with sprint car racing. So, but I'm fine racing sprint cars. Kind of whatever opportunities come, I'd love to do whatever seems to be the best for my career.
And speaking of home, you grew up on the road. I mean, you really didn't have that normal lifestyle. None of us do, when we're racers. But how have you seen Northern California, or NorCal as some people call it, that racing community as far as sprints, midgets, open wheel, just absolutely take off over the last decade?
Yeah, it's huge. You have Corey Elias and Buddy Kofoid, my brother. There's a lot of races. Carson Macedo is a perfect example, already on the Outlaw Tour. So that's seems like a breeding ground for very good race car drivers and very talented young kids that are on the hammer and can compete with the World of Outlaws too. So I think it's a good place. You see a lot of racers come out of there recently and in the past too. So Brad Sweet, another example. So I think it's a good place. The racing is a bit different than it is out here, but I think the best thing I could have done was kind of get out of California and get racing with the World of Outlaws on the bigger, slicker half miles. Just not something we have back home. So I've gotten better and seem to go better on half miles than I do on short tracks, which is weird, obviously coming from California. So I love it out here. The weather sucks with humidity, but that's the only thing I can complain about.
You'll be happy at the end of the year if?
Hopefully knock down a couple more Outlaw wins and maybe get something going with pavement.
That would be really cool. And, hey, man, we would love to have you over there, love to see your dad over there, potentially your brother over there. I mean, bring the Scelzis. I mean, I think they'd be great for NASCAR. Thanks so much for your time, and good luck this evening.
Awesome. Thank you.